Here are the most recent deaths in the national news, as reported at Legacy.com at the end of June and beginning of July 2025. Legacy.com is where you can find any obituary or publish an obituary in any local community in America and beyond. Actor Rick Hurst died June 26, 2025, at his home in Los Angeles at the age of 79. He was best known for playing the hapless sheriff's deputy Cletus Hogg in the hit 1980s television series The Dukes of Hazzard. Hurst is also being remembered for appearances in such shows as Murder, She Wrote, Melrose Place, and The Wonder Years. Singer Walter Scott died June 26, 2025, in Los Angeles. He died after a 6-month bout with cancer at the age of 81. Scott and his twin brother Wallace were the founders of the R&B group The Whispers, whose hit songs in the 1970s and 80s included And the Beat Goes On and Rock Steady. The Whispers' musical legacy has echoed through the generations for decades, as their songs have been sampled and reborn in other artists' hits like Will Smith's Miami. Walter Scott was a U.S. Army veteran who served during the Vietnam War. Composer Lalo Schifrin died June 26, 2025. He died of complications from pneumonia at the age of 93. He wrote the iconic theme tune for Mission Impossible, which debuted on the TV series in 1966 and continues to be heard in the Tom Cruise movies today. Schifrin was a multiple Grammy winner and Oscar and Emmy nominee. He is remembered for writing the music for such TV shows and films as Starsky and Hutch, Dirty Harry, and Enter the Dragon. Singer-songwriter Rebekah Del Rio died June 23, 2025, at her home in Los Angeles. She was 57. Her beautiful voice was featured in numerous movie soundtracks, including Sin City, Southland Tales, and David Lynch's Mulholland Drive, which she also appeared in. Del Rio is being remembered as one of the only vocalists whose cover of a Roy Orbison song was ever deemed as powerful as the original. A quick reminder, sometimes personal information, such as someone's cause of death, is not available immediately. We only report a cause of death when it has been officially announced by the family or the authorities. Every family has a right to their privacy. Social media personality Tanner Martin died June 25, 2025, at his home in American Fork, Utah. He died of colon cancer at the age of 30. Martin and his wife Shay had been documenting his cancer journey online for several years, from his diagnosis through treatment and the birth of their daughter. Millions of people have expressed their sympathies and respects after watching the Martins' videos on TikTok and Instagram, including a final goodbye video posted last week upon Martin's passing. Baseball player Dave Parker died June 28, 2025, at a nursing facility in Cincinnati. He died after a long battle with Parkinson's disease at the age of 74. Nicknamed the Cobra, Parker played 11 of his 19 Major League seasons with the Pittsburgh Pirates. He was named National League MVP in 1978 and won the World Series with the Pirates in 1979. Parker is remembered as a colorful personality whose bold quotes led his teammates to call him the Muhammad Ali of baseball. He is scheduled to be inducted into the National Baseball Hall of Fame in Cooperstown, New York, just 1 month after his passing. Comic book creator Jim Shooter died June 30th, 2025. He died of esophageal cancer at the age of 73. As the editor-in-chief of Marvel Comics during the 1980s, Shooter led a creative renaissance, publishing stories that redefined how characters like the X-Men, Thor, and the Hulk are still portrayed today. Shooter is also remembered for championing creators' rights at Marvel, and for creating much of the original story premise for the Transformers. Former U.S. Representative Carolyn McCarthy died June 26, 2025, at her home in Fort Myers, Florida, at the age of 81. She ran for Congress in 1996 after her husband Dennis was one of 6 people murdered in a mass shooting on New York's Long Island Railroad. McCarthy is remembered as a passionate advocate for what she called common sense gun control measures. She served 9 terms in Congress. Preacher and televangelist Jimmy Swaggart died July 1, 2025, 2 weeks after suffering a heart attack at the age of 90. He hosted a popular television ministry during the 1980s and gained nationwide notoriety when he apologized to his congregation after a widely publicized sex scandal. Swaggart is also being remembered as the close cousin of rock and roll icon Jerry Lee Lewis. Hockey Hall of Famer Alex Delvecchio died July 1, 2025, at his home in Rochester, Michigan. He was 93. Delvecchio played 22 seasons with the Detroit Red Wings, including 3 Stanley Cup championships in the 1950s. He is being remembered as the last living star of the Red Wings' peak era and as a lifelong ambassador for the team. Actor Michael Madsen died July 3, 2025, at his home in Malibu, California. He died of cardiac arrest at the age of 67. He is best known for his dramatic roles in several Quentin Tarantino films, including Reservoir Dogs, Kill Bill, and Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. Madsen is also remembered for character roles in many favorite movies of the 1980s and 90s, from War Games and Free Willy to Thelma and Louise and Sin City. There are still a few more celebrity tributes, but first, I just want to share that some of the most amazing obituaries we saw this week at Legacy weren't for celebrities, but for everyday people like you and me. For instance, a Vietnam War Navy SEAL who came home, founded a yoga studio and a barefoot disco, and finally became one of New York's favorite Santas. A beloved mom and social worker in North Carolina who ran a homeschool co-op and worked to support women and mothers online. A local TV and radio producer who started an educational organization in Uganda and also worked to preserve natural lands across northern Illinois. And a Tennessee grandfather who founded an outdoor island ministry called Worship on the Water, where people could boat, swim, or jet ski their way to a church service. At Legacy.com, any family can publish an obituary in honor of a loved one's memory, online and in local newspapers everywhere. Just visit Legacy.com and select your local community. In addition to featuring current deaths in the news, Legacy.com also honors the lives and legacies of notable people who died in the past. Here are some of this week's anniversaries. 20 years ago this week, singer and songwriter Luther Vandross died at the age of 54. His R&B hits included Never Too Much, Here and Now, and the Grammy Award-winning Dance with My Father. 30 years ago this week, actress Lana Turner died at the age of 74. She was a silver screen legend of the 1940s and 50s, starring in such films as The Postman Always Rings Twice, Peyton Place, and Imitation of Life. Also 30 years ago this week, actress Ava Gabor died at the age of 76. She starred on TV in Green Acres and had prominent voice roles in the Disney movies The Rescuers and The Aristocats. 50 years ago this week, TV screenwriter and producer Rod Serling died at the age of 50. He was the creator of the classic television shows The Twilight Zone and Night Gallery. Actor Farley Granger was born 100 years ago this week. He died in March 2011 at the age of 85. His many movies included the Alfred Hitchcock films Rope and Strangers on a Train. Every week in the United States, flags are lowered to half-staff to honor the lives of Americans whose communities are mourning their loss. Here are the most recent half-staff memorial flag honors. Flags in North Carolina have been lowered in honor of Anti-Lynching Awareness Month. Flags in North Carolina have also been lowered in honor of Cherokee Sheriff Detention Officer Francisco Paul Flatus, who was killed in the line of duty. Flags in Washington have been lowered to honor the memory of former Secretary of State Ralph Davis Monroe. Flags in Arizona have been lowered to honor the memory of the 19 Granite Mountain hotshots who lost their lives protecting fellow Arizonans from the Yarnell Hill fire in 2013. Flags in Kentucky have been lowered to honor the memory of U.S. Army Chief Warrant Officer Dustin Kelly Wright. Flags in New York have been lowered to honor the memory of former Representative Carolyn McCarthy. Flags in Tennessee have been lowered to honor the memory of former Senator Frank S. Nicely. Flags in Iowa have been lowered to honor the memory of U.S. Army Air Forces Corporal Melvin L. Huff, who was reported missing in action in the territory of New Guinea during World War II. His remains were recently identified and returned home for burial. Flags in Iowa have also been lowered in honor and remembrance of Iowa Senator Rocky DeWitt. Flags in Michigan have been lowered to honor the memory of former Michigan lawmaker Irma Clark Coleman. Flags in Wisconsin have been lowered to honor Milwaukee Police Department officer Kendall Corder, who died in the line of duty. Flags in Idaho have been lowered to honor the firefighters killed in an ambush attack in North Idaho. Flags in North Dakota have been lowered to honor the memory of former state legislator Steve Hickey. Flags in Montana have been lowered to honor the memory of former U.S. Representative Pat Williams. Flags in Maryland have been lowered to honor the memory of St. Mary's County Sheriff's Deputy Mark Porter, who died in the line of duty. You can find millions more life stories every day at Legacy.com. Follow Legacy.com on Instagram and Facebook, and subscribe to our channel on YouTube to stay up to date on national news deaths.